Shanti, everyone. Welcome to the Monday workshop, and this is a special day because we have with us a special sister who is a third generation in Yagya, and you might have heard her name very often. And this sister Shivani is very special in her own unique way. And especially she's not just a third generation BK, but also she embodies all the qualities of the ancestors. And she's going to share with us about our ancestors and how to take benefit and how to take the sustenance from our ancestors. So today's topic, let me just quickly share. Sister Shivani. Sharing the screen so that you can all see as I'm sharing. And just as a housekeeping, so we have a Hindi translation. So anyone wants to listen in Hindi, so you can pick up in Hindi translation. We have Sister Mana who is helping us with the translation on Hindi. And we strongly recommend everyone to turn on your cameras. And it is very lovely to see everyone face to face in this COVID time where we cannot see each other in person. Right? Sister Shivani is from her childhood. She has been with Baba. She has sustained by Dadi. She has sustained by seniors, and she has so much love for Yagya. And I personally had I had an opportunity to visit her whenever I go to Hyderabad. She runs a center in Banjara Hills. She sustains all the VIP souls, and they really take a lot of benefit from Sister Shivani and take a lot of sustenance from Baba through Sister Shivani. Yeah. And Sister Shivani, we spent a couple of weeks in Australia. She's not only fun, but she's more of a mother who took care of all the family that she brought, the BK family that she brought from India to Australia. So without any further ado, I'll invite Sister Shivani to join us and then share how she got into this path and what inspired her. And I will let Sister Shivani speak from here. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Welcome.
Am I audible?
Yes. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for this warm welcome, Harsha Bhai. And the best thing or the positive thing about this pandemic is that we are able to meet in this way, which probably we would have never imagined before. We are like one big family now. It is as if there are no borders, and I feel as if I am with all of you in person. So it's a pleasure to be with such a wonderful group this morning. It's morning in India. So thank you for inviting me. I remember when I was visiting San Francisco 12 years back, I have been to the main center, stayed there for a couple of days and spent some time in Anubhuti Retreat Center as well. So it was a wonderful feeling to be in a place where the senior instrument is Baba's, has been in the knowledge since Brahma Baba's days. And I really took a lot of benefit, and I have very sweet memories of the San Francisco family, which took very good care of us. We were about 3. Myself, Kuldeep Didi, the senior most sister of Hyderabad, and my younger sister along with me. So all those beautiful memories were coming alive when I was asked to share my experience. So before I get into my personal journey, which is connected with, as brother rightly said, that I am the third generation BK in my family, a dedicated one. So it all started with my grandparents. it was my grandfather who came to Baba initially in the year 1950s, in the year 1956. Sorry, I forget the dates. That's why I keep referring to it. 1956, he met Brahma Baba in Delhi, and his friend actually he was an army man serving the Indian army in those days. A friend of his was going to the BKs, and he was really having a nice time meditating. So he invited my grandfather to come along. And then when he first went to the center, Dadi Prakash Maniji was taking class at that point of time. And then she inspired him to take the foundation course, after which he continued with the foundation course, and he really loved the concepts shared. And after coming back home, he would share the experiences with my grandmother, Pritam Ben. So he was from a very, very religious family, and he was doing a lot of puja, bhakti, belonging to a Sikh community. He used to go to gurudwaras, to temples, and all sorts of community services also. But he was in search of God. And after coming to the BKs, he felt as if it was like his search ended. That's what he shared with my grandmother after the course, that I have found the real knowledge and I have found the real God. And that kept him really very, very happy in those days. So my grandmother, also being a very, very religious person, she didn't pay much attention to what he was telling, and just as a listener, she was just listening to him. Then later, one neighborhood lady came and casually inquired with my grandmother. Her name is Pritam Ben. She asked Pritam Ben that where is your husband? So she very casually said that he's at the BK center. He's gone for meditation. And then that lady was taken aback, and she said, "What? Did he go there?" Because in those days there was a rumor about the BKs that they are not so good people to be with, and they spoil families and all sorts of different things. So then this lady told my grandmother that now, he's going to leave all of you, and your family life is going to be spoiled. They do witchcraft, and they're magicians, and they use surma to attract people and all sorts of different things. She tried to influence her with, but and my grandma got really upset with what she heard. And then as soon as my grandfather came from the center, she said that from tomorrow you are not going, and nor are we meeting the BKs, and I don't want to see their face and all of that. She got mad on him. But he was very silent because he was coming from the center, listening to the Murli. He very patiently spoke to her and heard her heart out. But very nicely he said, "But you must once come along and see and experience for yourself." But at that point, she was not at all in a listening mode, and she rejected the idea, and nothing happened. So one day, grandfather very tactfully took her to the center. He said that I'm going to take you to a movie, to show you a movie, to a cinema hall. And then he took her to the BK center. So Dadi Prakash Mani was reading Murli at that point. And when she heard Dadi telling that those who defame Baba, Baba benefits them as well. After listening to these words, she was like surprised and shocked that how did they come to know about what I've been doing in the past. So she was shocked, and she said, "Is that so, that God forgives the ones who defame him?" And then she felt nice about the place. And the next day also, when she was asked if she would accompany my grandfather, she said, "Well, I will think about it," but later she joined. And Daddy Prakash Mani very politely spoke to her and encouraged her to take the foundation course as Brahma Baba was supposed to come in the near future. So she said that if you wish to meet Brahma Baba, or if you meet Brahma Baba, this is the minimum requirement that you have to take the foundation course. So then she went ahead with her foundation course and she started liking the knowledge and she started enjoying it very much. And slowly she got so used to it that she couldn't stop herself. Again, the voices of the people around her started telling her that you're not going in the right direction, you will spoil your family life, watch out, these people are not good, and all of that again used to pull her behind, in the sense that she would stop going to the center for a few days, listening to people around her, and then again there was a pull on the other hand towards the center. So such kind of pull and push was going on for quite some time, and then later the day arrived when Brahma Baba was supposed to come. So my grandfather had his breakfast and left for railway station he was asked to pick up Brahma Baba or be part of the group which was there to receive Brahma Baba at the railway station in Delhi. So he went in his military uniform to receive Brahma Baba, and as soon as Baba saw him and his eyes fell on him, he walked up to him and said, Maninder Singh, you were you were like a dog earlier. Now you have to become God, which means you have to become God-like. So rather than getting offended or feeling bad about what Brahma Baba said, he felt very happy about it. He came back home and shared the entire, narrated the entire experience of meeting Brahma Baba. And he said to my grandmother Pritam Ben that, their Baba is a very sweet person and I really loved him. He's a very attractive personality. You must also come tomorrow morning to meet him. So next morning, both of them went in the evening. Baba arrived in the morning, and in the evening, they went together to meet Brahma Baba. And as soon as my grandmother Pritam Ben entered the hall where the gathering was seated and Baba was speaking, she went and sat next to Brahma Baba and followed whatever was being taught and felt very nice sitting next to him. The feeling was very beautiful. And then later Baba said that I have come to take all your sorrows. So that line really, struck a chord in her heart. She, after the Murli was over, Baba went into his room, and then Pritam Ben followed him. And even though the newcomers were not allowed to meet Baba personally in their room, but she couldn't stop herself, even though my grandfather also signaled her that she shouldn't be doing such things. She should check with people around before going straight to Baba's room. She said, no, there is no such rules in love. So she went straight and she stood near the door, and Baba was seated on his bed. So as soon as, when she was telling in her mind that if you're really God and if you're really the instrument of God, then take all my burdens and my sorrows. Because by then she had 3 children, and the eldest one, the only son, he lost one of his eye. He had a tumor in his left eye, and then the medical facilities were not so great in those days. So one eye got removed and he couldn't see from one eye. So as a mother, and he was just 5-year-old. So as a mother who had only son and lost one eye, she was in a lot of pain and sorrow. So she said that if you really God, in her heart, she was telling, if you really God, take away all my sorrows. I've been looking around for you for a very long time, and stop me from all this wandering. I've been wandering a lot. Then after that, she has no idea what happened. And when she got into senses, she saw that she was in Baba's lap, and felt as if she is a small child, and taken care by the mother and father, and as if like a carefree child. She felt very happy sitting in Baba's lap, and then Baba again. She was in trance for some time. She saw the golden age. She was dancing around with Krishna and playing in the gardens of the golden age. She was having a very lovely time in that period of trance. And then slowly she heard Brahma Baba's voice telling that, "Come back, child, come back. Your husband is waiting for you. He's getting late for his office." So slowly, she came back to uh, awareness of the uh, things around. And then she was, as they were driving back home on one bicycle with three children. She had three children. One was 5-year-old, the son. One Kuldeep Ben was 3.5-year-old, and my mother was 1-year-old. So as they were driving back home on a bicycle, all five of them, she was still in a very semi-trance kind of stage. And she was still as if visualizing Satyog and having a beautiful time there. And when she came back home, and when my grandfather inquired what happened to you, she narrated the entire experience, that I had a wonderful experience of Golden Age and Krishna and all of that. So he said, well, your fortune has been awakened, and he was very happy about what she was experiencing. So later on, the voices of the world didn't matter to them too much. They didn't hear to the neighbors talking ill about the BKs. They were as if, deaf to the noises of the world. So they were just going straight to the center daily. After that, go meet Baba, listen to Murli, and come back. That was their routine. And after coming back, she would lock her door tightly, not allowing people to come and pollute her mind or to talk all nonsense about the BKs. So she didn't want to hear to their stories, because she was herself experiencing and having a lot of peace and happiness in her life. So that kept them going. And like that, 5 years went by, and my grandfather, wherever he was posted in the army, he was instrumental in opening centers in North India. So most of the centers were opened by grandfather, and he was really very intoxicated to do Baba's seva and to spread the message that God has come. So that was going on for 5 years, and later he lost his interest in his army life because there were a lot of restrictions in the army. Once when he had to they were following all disciplines from 3 months, when they were 3 months old in knowledge. Since then, they started following all the disciplines, purity, no outside food, all sattvic food cooked at home. All of that started very early in the Brahmin life. And in the Indian army, you have to follow strict rules. Like when he was once, he happened to be part of one battle. So in the battlefield, he was not allowed to carry his food, or neither was he allowed to cook his own food. So he literally didn't eat anything. He was just on fruits and whatever was offered to him. And for 1 week, he literally starved in the battlefield. And then when his senior officers noticed, they said that you better cook after 1 week or you will die. And please don't tell anybody that you were allowed to cook in the battlefield, because he was lost in Baba's love. And he said, come what may, I will not compromise with my discipline of my food habits. So he somehow managed after 1 week cooking his own food. And when he came back from the battlefield, the officer said that, well, if you want to maintain this discipline, you do something about it. I mean, you have to either give a letter that don't send me to any further battles, or you have to do something like, organ damage also can help you out. They gave him an idea, and that's when he put a pin in his ear and slightly, damaged a layer of his left ear, and then he was declared unfit for battles. So thereafter, he was not sent to any battles, so he could follow all his disciplines. But he felt that this service, serving the Indian Army, didn't allow him to, or didn't give him the freedom to serve Baba in a better way. So he was feeling bondage at times. When he wanted to attend programs, he was unable to because of his duty. So that's when he decided to take voluntary retirement. And when he went and met Brahma Baba in Mount Abu, and he said that, Baba, I don't want to work further in the Indian Army. I want to do your service. So Baba said, well, there is no centers in Hyderabad. You better go there, start your business, and initiate the services there. So in the early 50s, he came to Hyderabad, and initially the family didn't join him. They were back in Punjab. He came alone, and he rented a room and started the services in a small way. Not exactly the services. He used to meditate on his own, and in the day he used to find a shop to rent, and then he started his garments business in Hyderabad. So he never did business before, so he didn't have much of idea. But since it was Baba's idea that you should do some business to sustain your family, so he got some extra help from Baba. He felt that way. And in the day, he used to be busy with his shop. And in the evening, he used to come back and fresh up and cook for himself and then meditate for some time. So the room where he was staying, the owner was staying in the ground floor, a lady, and then he was in the second floor upstairs. So she started feeling very nice about him. And when he used to meditate, this woman used to have some very good feelings in the house. So one day when he was meditating in his room at Amrit Vela 4 a.m., this lady couldn't stop herself, and she came to his door and asked, what's happening here? And I want to know, what are you doing at 4 a.m.? So he said, well, it's too early. You come along with some more ladies along with you, and then I will explain you what I exactly do. So then she went door to door asking other ladies to join her, and a group of about 10 to 12 people joined her, and that's how he started giving course in a small way. Slowly the group expanded, and the room which he rented was too small to accommodate all of them. Then he took a bigger room, and later even bigger room, and that's how it went on. The services in Hyderabad expanded, and he left the body. The family joined him 2 years later from Punjab. My mother was too small. She was of school-going age. Then they started going to school in Hyderabad. They joined school here, and that's how he used to balance taking care of the family and the services on one hand. So there was center running at their place for many, many years. And slowly the house kept on increasing the size of the house, because people started coming and liking this knowledge a lot. So now we have a very big retreat center in Hyderabad by the name Shanti Sarovar. I think some of you might have visited us or heard about it. It's 36 acres land given by the government of Andhra Pradesh 17 years back. And yeah, so that's how big it is now. And he left the body at the age of 47, and he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and there were not much of good treatments in those days for cancer. So 2 years later, after he was diagnosed with cancer, he left the body. Thereafter, my grandmother took the services forward. Meanwhile, my mother got married because she always kept it clear that she wanted to lead a family life. So neither my grandmother or my grandfather forced her into, leading a BK life, even though she was living in the center for quite some time during her growing age, young age. But she was clear that what she wanted. So she was allowed to get married. My uncle, the eldest son, he also got married. And Kuldeep Didi, who was the second child of Pritam Ben, my aunt, elder sister of my mother, she was quite pulled by the BK knowledge, and then she dedicated. She got the opportunity to live with Dadi Janki in Pune for 2 years. And when their father, that is my grandfather, left the body, then Dadi asked Kuldeep Ben to go back to Hyderabad and help Pritam Ben with the services back there. So that's how both Kuldeep Ben and Pritam Ben together, took the Palna of Janki Dadi in those days, and they took the services forward thereafter. Then after marriage, my mother, after maybe 3-4 years, no, not 4 years, 5 years of marriage, she again got pulled by the BK knowledge. Asha Didi once came to Hyderabad, and there was a bhatti going on where my mother was invited. So after listening to Asha Didi and attending that bhatti, she again started all the disciplines which she was maintaining during her young age. And we as children also started, along with the mother, we also started getting pure food. We were not allowed to go to cinema halls or lead a pure life. So that's how, when I was born, I saw all the white sari people around me. There was Kuldeep Ben, my aunt, there was Pritam Ben, my grandmother. So I was like born into this family where I got a very, very pure environment, which really helped me or shaped me or groomed me the way I am. And I remember when I was 3-year-old, Kuldeep Ben my aunt took me to Madhuban for a children's program, even though I was the youngest. I mean, only 5 years old and above were allowed in that program, but I was somehow given a chance when Kuldeep Ben requested. So I remember I have some memories of that first visit to Mount Abu, even though a 3-year-old child doesn't remember too much. But somehow I have some strong memories that I was listening to Avyak Babdada. That was the first time Avyak Babdada came to meet the children's group in 1983. And I still remember that after the Murli, I in a very loud way, I said, Kuldeep Ben, that in the hall, that what a beautiful story Baba narrated. And I started clapping, and the whole hall could hear me, and they were laughing at me as to what story I could follow at the age of 3. So that's how my journey started. And the next day after Baba's meeting, there was the opening of the fountain in 1983. Om Shanti Bhavan was very new. We were the first program which took place, or the first Baba's meeting which took place there, was the meeting with the children's group. Bab Dada arrived, and then there was this fountain which got ready in front of Om Shanti Bhavan. And the following day, after Baba's meeting, Dadi announced, Prakash Mani Dadi announced that we will be inaugurating a new fountain, and all the children are invited to gather around the fountain, and we will have a nice time there. So after Murli, we all gathered there, and Dadi was supposed to inaugurate. So she got a wooden piece of a plate kind of a thing, and there was a switch attached to it, and she was supposed to press the button and inaugurate the fountain, which was the first fountain in the yajna. Everybody was quite excited about it. All the engineers who were helping, and they were very happy that Daddy would inaugurate. But then Daddy suddenly announced that the youngest child in the group would inaugurate this fountain along with me. So then the mic was given to all the children to check with their age. And lastly, everybody realized that I was the youngest in the group. And then I still remember Daddy taking me in her arms, holding me, and then taking my finger along with hers. And we both together pressed the button. And it was such a moment of joy for me. For the first time in my life, I was seeing a fountain, a 3-year-old. So I still have memories of Daddy, holding me in her arms, and together we were inaugurating the fountain. Whereas no 3-year children have any memories of their childhood. But whenever I used to go to Mount Abu, every year my mom used to take me to the children's camp, both me and my sister. I used to go to the fountain and see that how is it working, and feel very happy and nice about myself for being part of this historic event. And that's how every year we were having all our summer vacations where we used to spend time with the dadis in Madhuban in children's camp. And in those days, the camps were the group was small, and dadis, all senior dadis, used to pay a lot of attention, give quality time to the children, teaching them values with stories and games and activities. So I remember growing up with the dadis, and I thought in those days that they are my grandmothers. Apart from Pritam then, I was under the impression that I have many other grandmothers. So I never thought that everybody has only one grandmother, and later on I realized that. But I have a lot of memories with Daddy Prakash Mani, calling us to her room, and we were asked to meet her each time when we were supposed to leave Madhuban. And whenever we used to go to her room to take leave from her, she used to, fill her room with toys from different countries, which she used to get. And she used to ask us to take toys as much as you want. So we as children used to, pick up 2, 3, or 4 of them. So my mother used to signal us that, no, you just have to take one. But Daddy always told her, no, let them take whatever they want, as much as they want, and let them be filled with Baba's love. Allow them to get filled with Baba's love. I still have some soft toys given by Prakash Mani Daddy in those days. And each time we were in Madhuban, we used to go to Nirvair Bhai Sab's office. We used to call him Nirvair Uncle in those days, and he used to give us chocolates from imported chocolates from different countries, which he used to get. And I remember that I never had a single chocolate in my life apart from Madhuban. We didn't purchase chocolates from outside at all. So we were given so many in big quantities, bag full at times, from Nirvair Bhai Sahab, that we used to come back from Madhuban feeling so full and feeling so rich, actually. Because for children, this is the richness. So we always felt we were very, very rich, even though we were from an upper middle class family, but we felt in that way in our hearts. So Baba was filling us with all his love and care, which we didn't understand much in those days, but now we appreciate it all the more. And I remember that when we used to go to the summer camps and there was Murli going on, at times we were noisy, me and my sister, in the Murli hall. So then Manoj Dadi one day called us aside. In the Om Shanti Bhavan, there is a garden next to it. So she signaled us to come to the garden, and she sat with us and she said, see, me, my sister, and my cousin. My uncle's daughter also used to accompany us for these summer camps. So she said, see, all three of you, I will give you a notebook and pen. So if you can make note of 5 points each in your notes from the Murli, and come and share your 5 points, and it should not match with any others points, which means we used to have 15 points because we were three of us. And if your points don't match with all three of you, then I will give you some very tasty toli every day. So that was the pull, So that was her idea, a very beautiful idea to bring our attention towards Murli. So I remember that we got a very beautiful pen and a notebook, and we were quite excited to listen to the Murli. Then we have to go and share with her so that we get the toli, because the attraction was the toli. And every day we used to go to her room straight after Murli, and we had straight access to all the daddy's rooms. We went straight to her room and we said, Daddy, this is the points. Now you have to listen to us. And very patiently, she heard all three of us. And after the Murli, after listening to us, she would give us toli, and she made sure she didn't repeat the toli. Every day, some new toli was made for us. And that went on for maybe for a week or so. I don't remember the toli repeated, the same toli. So I keep wondering who takes care, who cares for such young children to make sure that they listen to Murli and do go out of the way to do something for them. That was the pure unconditional love of the daddies. And I still remember Prakash Mani Daddy used to gather all the children in the courtyard, in the Angan of Pantav Bhavan during after dinner at 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then she used to have fun with us, games, songs, activities. I still remember my first song, which was taught to me by Prakash Mani Dadi in Madhuban's courtyard. And after that, I started singing, and in many BK programs also, because I had a good voice. So I was invited in many programs, and then my mother also took a lot of care that our BK life should be very, not just a BK now, we have to be an idealistic BK. So she used to work on us a lot, like teaching us to have a good heart-to-heart, good morning with Baba. We had a nice Baba's room in our house. So the ritual in our house was that as soon as you get up, you have to go to Baba's room, sit in Baba's room for 5 minutes and wish Baba good morning and tell him that come along to the school with us and be with us all through the day. So after that only we used to get ready. We used to get our breakfast, fresh up, get breakfast, and then go to school. And the practice was before going to school also. We had to sit in Baba's room for a minute, tell him that I'm going to my school and you have to come along with me. Once again, we have to tell him and then leave. So that practice really, really helped me a lot. So even though I studied in a convent school where there were children from different countries also, and generally, you get carried away with company also at times, whoever you are moving around with. But this practice of telling Baba that come along with us in the school kept us so protected by the outside influences. Our friends also were very, people who were liking our lifestyle, people who were trying to adopt our lifestyle. So such kind of company we got just because we were sitting in Baba's room and going daily to our school. Some days we would forget, in a hurry, we would rush to school. My mother used to call us back and she used to say that you first have to sit in Baba's room and then you have to go. So the cab we had a family cab which used to pick up all the children and drop them to school. The cab driver never understood that why is the mother calling the children behind at times, and then don't know what happens inside, and then again the children come back running. So, well, that was our practice, daily practice. Till date, any for anything, if I have to move out for any shopping or any seva purpose also, it's become a deep practice for a very, very long time now that I have to sit in Baba's room, even if it is for just half a minute also. And I make it a point that I sit in Baba's room and then leave. So the thing which happens is you are, all your responsibility becomes Baba's and you are taken care of by him. Your decisions are accurate. I have observed many times that when I had to, even the school days also, when I had to, for my exams, I had to appear. Then I used to sit in Baba's room and go for a moment, and you tell Baba that come along and I will write my paper and you help me to with the answers, help me memorize them at the right time. So, so I could see that, the answers where I have read.
Yeah, it's a beautiful experience is what you are sharing, and
Yeah, the answers used to emerge so naturally in the flow. I was always the person who used to finish my exam before time, always.
yeah.
Because, it was as if Baba who was writing through
Yeah.
me and I was just an instrument. So even though I was an average student, I was never a topper in the class because I never enjoyed the Lokik study. But this was how it helped me to overcome the exam fear. Never I experienced fear in exams. And my bedtime stories were about the yagya, because my mother as a child had memories of moving around with Brahma Baba. So as kids, they used to go along with their parents to Madhuban, and Baba used to shower his unconditional love on them. And she used to recall all of those sweet days, and she used to narrate all those stories while
So
going to
quickly,
bed.
Shivanben, I just want to share, there are some questions coming up on, on the chat also. So I quickly want to share, ask of questions on the sharing that you are sharing with the team group. So one of the things is when we are very young, when we have some spiritual experience at a younger age, because our mind is very pure, very peaceful, and very much in a state that can absorb something subtle, right? And I remember when I was very young, around 7 years old, I had a beautiful experience of Baba taking up into the golden light. And that is one of the experience that I use even now to meditate, right? So I have few those, like when I was young, my grandfather used to take me to the temple and then we used to go for a morning walk. And that is like totally bodiless experience. I remember it used to be a very unique experience. And I'm sure you might have a lot of such experiences which you can leverage right now. And then a lot of us are also thinking like, now that dadis are abhyakt, we didn't had that fortune of spending time with dadis and all of the stuff. And we don't know what to expect even when we relate to dadis. Maybe if you can shine some light on how does that avyaktpana feels like, how does what is that I need to do to have that kind of experience, because dadis are always there. Baba is always in Avyakt form. He's always trying to reach out for us, right? And when you have that experience, how does it feel like? If you can shine some of the light. And then I remember once Subhash Bhai from Gyan Sarovar came, he was telling incident which you are sharing too, especially during summer vacation when all the children go to Madhuban. They used to have a lot of time with daddies. And one, they said that once you sit very quietly and meditate, and then Baba will give you whatever you want, right? And they I mean, they went to Baba's Pahad in Madhuban, and then they lived literally went into trance. And they were meditating, Baba, you have to come. And then they were like so pure, from an honest heart, they literally went into trance. More than 40 to 50% of the children literally went into trance, and they are not willing to come down. I mean, from trance. And then Daddy was literally freaked out, like, oh my God, what did I do now? Did that
Yeah.
again. Like, I mean, it's such a beautiful thing, especially when you are very young, and when you get a taste of spirituality at it, it goes very deep, right?
True.
Shine some of that subtle experiences that you had, and then what to expect in that avyakta connection.
Right. Sure. I remember that every Sunday we used to go to the center. This is during my school days, and spend the whole day in the center. And in the evening, when there was this Numa Sham 7 to 7:30 meditation going on, so I always wanted to, somehow I had the attraction towards the Gaddi, the stage where the sisters used to sit and conduct meditation. I always wanted to sit on that stage. I had an attraction towards it. So one day when I requested Ketan, then, can I, as there were not many sisters in the center, they went out for a picnic or somewhere. So there were not many sisters along with her. It was just me and Preetam Ben and my mother and my sister. So I requested, there are not many people today, also students also. So can you allow me to sit on the gaddi? So that's when she said, okay, go ahead. So when I remember I sat on the gaddi, I don't know what happened exactly, but when I got up after 7:30, the lights were turned on. It felt as if it went by as in one minute, and I felt so light about it. I was pulled by Baba to Paramdham. Later, when I analyzed it, that's what I understood, that I experienced the silence of the soul world. And after that, when I came back to my senses, I started telling my mother that I don't feel like speaking at all. Please don't talk to me. My mother was surprised what's wrong with her today. And she also, I mean, she gave me my space though. But that experience was so beautiful that that night I felt so nice and so much at peace with myself. That that day I really felt what peace feels like. And whenever something challenging comes, or whenever some important services I'm involved into, I go back to those memories and I go back to that silent world and bring back that feeling within me. And that feeling of peace, brings me in the moment. And when you are in the moment, all your decisions are very accurate, and later you don't have to regret at all on it. So that experience, I use it again and again and again. And whenever, in our daily life, of course, we are challenged by Maya many a times. So whenever any challenging situation comes, I remember my sweet childhood days, what all Palana I got, and that uplifts me. That brings me again to good spirits. So for the people who have missed the meeting Dadi or receiving Palna from the seniors, they now have to count on Baba straight. Of course, the Dadis are always around to help us, protect us as our guiding angels. They are just one thought away. Even I feel till today that I feel the presence of Pritam Ben around me at times, and I feel as if Janki Dadi is, helping me with her amazing knowledge and understanding. I feel that way. I stay in the center where Pritam Ben lived. For 7 years we were here together. And I many a times feel that she's there, her presence is there and is helping us. And the beauty is, after she left, the services multiplied like anything. So such souls go for a purpose to multiply the services. And when we are in tune with ourselves, or we are more connected to the self, which is we are soul conscious, we can receive power from these ancestor souls. And of course, Baba is always there, but we feel their presence around us. So it's all about how much you are in tune with yourself. So I see when I'm here and there, I'm not, focused on
This is
or in
beautiful.
the moment.
Yeah, no, this is really great. So what you're sharing. And then on that note, I have one question, especially Maya, and especially today's Murli Baba alludes on that part on Maya. Maya is not just the hurdles that come, the physical challenges that come from the body or the physical challenges, but the Maya is the real challenge comes from inside, right?
Mhm.
So, so sometimes people get moody, people, no matter what they try to do, they cannot have that connection with Baba. And there is a lot of distraction, there's a lot of confusion even sometimes happens, not just in the thoughts, because concept is very clear. Like, I'm soul, Baba is here, it's time to go home. We have that divinity within us. The clarity is there, and we have to remember, we have to be soul conscious. All that clarity is there, but when you really sit for meditation, the connection does not establish, right? And that is where the real challenges starts coming up, right? So uh, when you come across that kind of situations, what is that you try to do to pull yourself out of it, to get back on track on the path of remembrance?
One practice which has helped me in such a uh, scene, which never happened many times, but just once or twice it happened in this 25-year journey living in the center. I sat and started writing what all attainments I have received from Baba in this Brahmin life. What love, what um, what kind of purity I received, what kind of blessings. You get blessing cards. It's good to remove those blessing cards and have a look at them, because I have a big collection of these blessing cards. I've got many though. So I take support from there. And then firstly, you have to feel the connection with the self. You cannot meditate at that point. So it's important to first connect with yourself. And these things helps you to uplift your self-respect, uplift your motivation, and bring back again the enthusiasm within you for that, yes, this is a beautiful life. You have come this far, and you are not supposed to quit. It's good to reflect on your BK life or remember your childhood days. And I used to write it down also at times. But of late, I, I stopped this practice. And just when you asked me to share the experience, I once again sat with my notebook pen, writing what all I have, achieved, or what all gifts I got from Baba in this beautiful Brahmin life. It was feeling so good. It was as a homecoming for me.
Beautiful.
Trust me, since yesterday, I have a very beautiful feeling. People
We
are
can see that.
observing my face, and they are wondering what's wrong with her. My sisters around me are seeing a difference in my face. And I'm like, yes, I am lost in those sweet memories, good old memories. So it's good to write down in those moments, because writing is a nicer way to release your emotion, whatever you're going through. You're moody, you're upset. So there is a whole lot of science behind that. When you write, you are in a way releasing that emotion. And then it feels good to see what all you have achieved. And again, it pushes you back to your original self.
Mm,
And you are able to connect with Baba. Of
beautiful.
course, it takes a little time, but yes, it's possible.
It's worth definitely. I do acknowledge with you. And the very practice of writing, whole memory comes alive, and then you start reliving and you start experiencing all of that beautiful experiences again. Beautiful. So Baba also says that whenever you feel like, you can always come to Madhuban with your mind, So when you go to Madhuban, in your mind, where do you go? What is your favorite place? And what do you do?
Mhm. First, when the term Madhuban comes to mind, I first, travel to the fountain in front of Om Shanti Bhavan. Somehow my mind goes first there, even though it has to go to Baba's room or Shanti Stham or the most important places, pilgrimage places of Madhuban, but it first runs to the fountain. I visualize myself, and again, as if I feel, a fountain of joy in my heart, overflowing with God's love. So the fountain is like a, what do you call this? Not a prop, but an image in my mind, which is very deeply ingrained. And that when this image is there in my mind, I get uplifted. I get all the happiness and the joy and the enthusiasm all comes very naturally to me. And then, of course, the courtyard where we used to sit and have fun with the daddies. Of course, that is one place where I I visualize myself many a times in Madhuban, even when I'm meditating. And then Baba's room is constantly giving you that energy. And I feel in Shanti Stham, Baba is standing with open arms that come to me whenever you want. I'm available 24 by 7, and you can pour your heart out. And in Baba's hut, yeah, you can sit and write letters to him as to what promises you have made and what you're going to make and how you want your life to be. All of that comes to mind when you say Madhuban.
Beautiful. See, Madhuban is a very special place, and especially there is always dadis. Whenever you think about Madhuban, there is always dadi. And it always amazes me. There are 350 dadis. We don't know many of them, right? And you being in Madhuban since a very young age, you might have come across a lot of dadis, right?
Oh, yes.
You like to share some of your personal experiences with dadis, which we generally don't know. I think Manoharindra Dadi,
Yes,
maybe.
one was with Manorindra Dadi, second was Ishu Dadi.
Ishu
Today
Dadi.
is the 11th day, and there is being bhog offered in her memories in many of the centers in India or most of the centers. But we chose to offer on the coming Thursday because I had to take a class for the San Francisco group. So yeah, when I remember, she hardly used to speak. She was very silent, a very peaceful being. But whenever we used to go to Prakashmani Dadi's room, as kids, we had access to all the Dadi's rooms. There was no restrictions that children have to take permissions and go. We used to go as and when we want to, at our will and wish. So I remember whenever I used to see Ishu Dadi, she was very, very loving, even though she was not speaking much, but her drishti and very caring. So even though she didn't have chocolates to offer, she didn't have gifts to offer like the other daddies used to do, she had these homeopathic pills with her in her room. So I used to get attracted to those sweet homeo pills without the medicine in it. And whenever I used to go to her room, I used to ask her if she could give us those pills because there was a dispensary next to her room, a homeopathic dispensary. And that was her toli coming from her, the homeopathic pills. And she, whenever we used to go, even at odd timings, she never got irritated by us. We as children didn't know when to go and meet daddies, what is the best time, or to check with them and go. We used to go in the afternoon when they were in deep sleep also, and then wake them up and then say that I want to eat those homeo pills. I feel like having them now. And she used to very nicely, very politely, get up and sweetly give us those pills. And I still remember, I have memories of sitting in her lap and she feeding me those pills. So that was my experience. She was very caring, very sweet, very observant of what's happening. Not that she was silent, so she was not at all observant. She was very observant. She knew everything happening in Pandav Bhavan in those days. She used to move around, and she was like a reporter coming back and reporting to Prakash Mani Dadi as to what's happening in the campus. So that was another experience with the um, Ishu Dadi. And of course, with Janki Dadi, I had a very special bond. Even though I
Yeah,
didn't get
before
to
we go
meet her.
further, I
Yeah.
just want to add how Ishu Dadi is so special and something that we need to take it from Dadi and to very much need right now is one of the things like you are calling out that Ishu Dadi uh, knows everything that is going on in
Yes.
Yajna, right?
Yes.
And before Yagya, even when Brahma Baba used to be there, all the letters she used to write, she used to respond, and Baba used
Yes.
to write in Sindhi, and then she used to write beneath it. So, in other words, she knows each and every story of every Brahmin, right? So, in other words, when you know story of everyone, what is going on in our head, right?
Mhm.
And she is known for keeping only Baba in her head. And it needs a lot. See, especially when just when we listen to some gossip about some person, it goes on in a
Mhm.
right. So, but her task itself is to read letters, write letters, get to know, do what needs to be done, right? And at the same time, she has to be totally detached and put one shield like Brahma and step back and totally go into one Baba and nobody else. And that is something. And then I've been watching her from a side because she never comes on the stage. So I was wondering, who is this Dadi? Who is this Dadi? And then she was very smiling, very pleasant, very incognito, and then especially you added icing on the cake right now when you're sharing like how sweet she is. And because unless I get to know Dadis, I cannot remember Dadis as they are, right? And one of these qualities always touches about Ishu Dadi. And for some of you who are here, she just left the body some couple of weeks ago, and today is the 11th day of her ascension. Yeah, thank you. See, yeah. So you were sharing about Dadi Jan.
Yes. Before going to Dadi Janki, one more incident I remember about Dadi issue is 2 years back, she came to Hyderabad, 2 or 2.5 years back. And when she was visiting the center where I stay, she was staying at Shanti Sarovar. And when I checked with Kuldeep Didi if she can come to Banjara Hills Center where I stay for the inauguration of a new lift, which was just got ready in a new upcoming building of ours. So then immediately it was a yes from their end, and we hardly had time to prepare on anything. And she came and she inaugurated the lift very happily, like a small child, like a kid. She was, moving around in her wheelchair. And then after that, she conducted the class where she spoke about her watch, which she used to wear, given by Brahma Baba. So I felt that how much she values whatever she got from Baba. She might have got all the beautiful gifts from different people who have offered her so far, but she values what comes from Baba a lot. And she was very simple. She was an embodiment of simplicity. And after the class, she was supposed to leave to Shanti Sarovar. And suddenly she said that, no, I'm feeling a little tired. I need to rest for a while before we go to Shanti Sarovar, which is a half-an-hour drive from where I stay. So this sudden change in plan, so we quickly, got the bedroom ready, and she was supposed to go and take rest. And immediately when she went into the room and she lied down on the bed, a VIP soul, because I stay in a center where there are all VIPs in this area. So one wife of one minister, she came. She couldn't make it in the morning, so she came. She chose to come in at 9:30. She thought that Dadi might have left and she will never get to see any Dadis because she desperately wanted to meet Dadi. She had never met any Dadis before. So her attraction was there towards Dadi. And then she came running and she rushed to me and said that, "Sister, please, I want to meet Dadi. I don't know. I got caught up with something at home and I don't want to miss this opportunity. Maybe she's staying back for me. Maybe this could be the reason and I have to meet her." I said, "Okay, then you have to wait for half an hour or so. Whenever she wakes up, I will let you know. You can go back home and I will call you, or if you want, you can sit in Dada's home. It's your choice." So she said, I will wait." Then what happened? I suddenly got a thought that I must go and see if she is awake or she is asleep, because this lady is also coming from an influential family, and keeping her waiting for too long will also not be good. So I just went and stood by the door, just opened and peeped to see if she's awake or she's asleep. She could sense that somebody is at the door. She said, "Who's that?" So I said, "Dadi, it's me." And what happened? She said, I said, "Well, I don't want to trouble you, but I just want to let you know that there is a VIP soul waiting for you. Whenever you get ready, you let me know. I will invite her to meet you." She said, "Why don't you call her now?" I said, "No, you have to take rest. So it's she can wait. It's okay. It's not important." I told her this way. But believe me, within half a minute, she got up from her bed. She combed her hair properly and she was ready to meet this VIP soul. And I was like, what's happening? And then when I asked this lady to come to her room, because she was not able to walk out and come and meet her outside. So she said, "Call her in my room." So then this lady walked into the room, and I had an apple in my hand in a tray, so that Dadi gives her after the meeting. So as soon as she entered the room, Dadi gave her hand into this lady's hand and caught hold of her hand for at least 5 minutes. There was some conversation going on which I couldn't hear because I was a little here and there. So I don't know what they spoke, but all through that meeting, Dadi's hand was in her hand. And later, when I gave this apple to Dadi to give to this VIP soul, she very sweetly gave her drishti, and in that drishti, she was having tears of joy. I could see rolling down. And after coming out of the room, she said, "Shivani Ben, did you tell Dadi to catch hold of my hand or touch me?" I said, "No, we can't say anything to Dadis. I mean, it's their choice. It's their personal choice." So trust me, I came with a thought that I have to touch, even if it is for a small part of her body or for a few seconds or so. I wanted to touch and feel how, a touch of an angel feels like, because I've heard a lot about Dadi, they are living angels. So I had that pure desire in my mind, which I couldn't share with you though. But immediately, as soon as I entered her room, she gave her hand to me, and all through the conversation, her hand was in my hand. I felt so much power, flowing through her, coming from her to me, and I could feel so uplifted in her presence. So, they could read the minds of people and whatever desires they were coming. She had all the possessions in the world. She was one of the richest lady in Hyderabad. And she just wanted to touch this angel, and Dadi immediately could sense it and exactly provide what was needed.
Beautiful.
So that was a learning, a beautiful experience with Dadi Ishuji.
Yeah.
She was so ever ready for service. She didn't care about her rest. Even though she went for rest, I could see she was tired after a 1 hour class, but she kept her rest aside, save up first, and exactly providing what was needed. That was the issue for me.
Yeah. And the beauty of that is they have this subtlety to sense others' desire, others' feelings, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's really beautiful. On that note, a quick question: did you had a chance to meet Didi,
You mean Manmohini Didi?
Manmohini Didi?
No, I was born in 80 and she left the body in 78 or 79, something like
Oh,
that.
okay, okay.
So I missed the chance meeting Manmohini Didi.
Maybe
I
you
hear
met her in
stories.
the previous birth.
You never know. But yes, I hear stories. I heard a lot of stories from Preetham Ben about Manmohini Didi, how she was so balanced with love and law, and she was so, like a powerhouse. And in her presence, they used to feel so much power. And she was strict as much as loving she was. And in her palna, they really learned many things. That's what Preetham Ben. And my mother also had childhood memories with Manmohini Didi and more strong memories with Brahma Baba. She still remembers that she used to catch hold of his hand and he used to take them out for a walk, and they really had a nice time with him. Like they felt as if they were in the presence of a elderly grandfatherly personality. Baba was very tall, fair. That's what my mom explains physically about his experience, about his appearance. Very tall, fair, very standing personality. He was very straight also in the age of 90 also. His backbone was very, very straight and was like a kingly personality. That's the impression in my mother's mind about Brahma Baba. So yes, I heard stories of Manmohini Devi. I didn't get a chance to meet her.
Yeah. And
Yes, and with,
definitely,
yes.
definitely to add to this, daddies, every time you go to Madhuban, you get to hear and listen from Dadi Manoharendra, right?
Yes.
Right. And then I remember, I mean, we used to have a brother called Mario. Brother Mario is his favorite Dadi is Dadi Manoharendra. And then a lot of his passwords are Manohar, by the way, left the body. But
Secrets out.
yeah, and then some of the things that I heard is there are some pictures. They all used to go to Baba's Rock, and Manoharendra Dadi and all the Dadis, along with all the double foreigners, they used to go to Baba's Rock in those days, and then they used to meditate on Baba's Rock, and they used to have a great experience, right? And just before going to Baba's Rock, Manoharendra Dadi used to give them a glimpse of what it feels to be in Madhuban in the times of Brahma Baba. And she used to beautifully paint that picture in everybody's mind and build that feeling. And then everyone walks to Baba's Rock. And when they used to sit there, and then they not only tell the story, but they recreate that atmosphere on Baba's Rock. And a lot of double foreigners have beautiful experience around that. So you wanted to shine some more light on Dadi Manoharendra.
Yes. When she used to narrate the stories of the yajna, we used to feel as if we are transported into a different era, and we're right there in front and watching it as if on our, screen of our mind, so clear. Everybody you could picturize, actually, and feel as if you were part of that story. That was the beauty of Nadi Manohar, that she used to transport you into a different period. And no matter how poor meditator you are, at that point of time, you exactly felt what those people felt in those days.
Beautiful.
So
Particular
that
story
was,
that you shared that invoked some of your golden age forms or something of previous birth.
golden age forms. I don't recall anything at the moment, but yeah, I remember once it's not with Dadi Manoharendra, then it's with Dadi Kulzar actually.
Uh,
I was in China 8, 9 years back, and Dadi Kulzar was visiting Beijing. I went to China for a new building in Shanti Sarovar got ready. I went to buy furniture for the two big complexes, the dining block and the VIP residential block. So that's when I heard that she is in Beijing, and then I was in Guangzhou, and it was 2.5 hour flight. We went there to spend time with her because in India she's always around, surrounded with so many people. So at times we miss that, closeness with her, and don't get some quality time to spend with her. So I was quite happy that I'm going to meet her in China, where the family is small, and I was excited that I will get my space and time with her. And as was my feeling, so was the gift given to me by Baba. I was with her for 4 days in Beijing, and trust me, there were not many Indians around her. The sister from Japan, she was supposed to translate. I don't remember the senior instrument in Japan, her name. She was the only Indian sister around Daddy, and it was me. Mine was very unexpected. She never expected me to be in Beijing with Daddy. So when she used to get tired of, translating, because whole day Daddy used to conduct classes. So
Is it
Rajini Ben, yeah. So Rajini Ben was very happy that one other sister who could translate was around and who could run, who was young and could do all the running for her as well. So I got the opportunity to be around with Daddy for 4 days. And in this 4 days, I felt as if I am in Satyug with the king of Satyug, and I didn't feel for a small time also that I am in China, I'm in a different country. That was the feeling with Daddy Gulzar in her presence, that my Satyugi folder got opened up, and I was as if, moving around with a king. Not a Daddy was in a female body, but I could see a king in her. She was like a king, so royal. All the beautiful things were presented to her. I remember we went to a mall in China, which had the world's best furniture. And it's not open to all also. It needs some special permissions. So somehow the senior sister, Sister Chen, got the permission, and then she convinced Daddy that we're going to see the world's best furniture today. And we went to the mall, and we were all like, wow, going mad about the beautiful furniture. It was really, we couldn't imagine it was that beautiful. And Daddy was just like this on her wheelchair, not at all attracted with anything. The best of best furniture, the best of best things didn't pull her attention at all. She was in her own space. It was as if her paradise was right in her mind. And so all of this was like, okay. So I was observing Daddy's face all the time. She was not at all, in this world or belonging to this world, was the feeling. Whereas all of us at some point were feeling wow about the things, looking at the things. It was really wow. Anybody could say wow, but Daddy was so much in her self-respect and so dignified. Her eyes were also not moving around too much, whereas we were like, these two eyes are not enough to see the beauty around. We were in that mode, and Daddy was so detached, but yet so in the moment. She could
It's so
listen
beautiful and appropriate,
yeah.
and we have 10 more minutes to wrap up. So one of the things I want to bring to your perspective is like what's happening in India right now, and things are not so pleasant right now. And Baba also says that Adi so Ant, no matter where you're, even today's blessing Baba was talking about, where your heart is getting attracted, you lose the power. Or when you are free from the attractions, you will be powerful. So as the things starts wrapping up, if we want to be under the influence of Baba, we need to have that beautiful experiences, and we need to stay in the remembrance. When Baba says, remember, I always used to ask myself, like, what to remember? What am I remembering? Right? So I have nothing to remember. I don't even need Baba. Okay, Gyan is there. I have the clarity of it. Should I just keep churning Gyan? So, but when we start having these beautiful experiences by listening to it, by visualizing ourselves, putting ourselves in that place, and allowing ourselves to go into that place, so the ones which are more relevant at this time, and more we start staying beyond the influences and stay in that spiritual, what we call ruhani sukh. So that pleasantness will keep us safe and going forward. So on that note, I want you to shine some light on what is that we can do right now, and maybe if you can take us into some other meditation for next 5-10 minutes. Yeah.
Sure. Actually, this question of yours has a deep connection with Dadi Janki. Even though I didn't meet her in my childhood days that much because she was in London, we were in India. Very occasionally we saw her from a distance in Madhuban, but I always felt connected with her. We were like energetically connected. And I used to tell my mother that she is my daddy. We all three children had our own separate daddies. I had my own daddy as Daddy Janki. My sister said that Daddy Prakashmani was my daddy, and my cousin used to say that Daddy Gulzar is my daddy. So we had our fixed daddies, all the three children. And whenever I used to see her picture, I used to get very attracted towards her, even though she was miles away. Many in different occasions, I will not go into the details of the stories. Whenever at the youth age also, when I met her once, she in the gathering she asked me to get up, and she said that this person draws my attention or pulls my attention. So it was the same feeling which I had for her as a growing child. Always I used to get pulled towards her. I was very surprised as to how energy travels and works. I could feel it with Dadi Janki. So at a very young age, I can say teenage, I understood this very nicely with Dadi Janki, that energy travels far away and it surely works provided you know how to channelize it, your thought energy. So in this pandemic also, since I've understood how energies work and how it reciprocates, and I have seen it with proofs with many dadis, especially with Dadi Janki, I had proofs that yes, whatever you are radiating, it is coming back to you. In her case, it was exactly happening. So each time meeting her was like, proving that yes, this works. Yes, this works. She knows you from your heart. She can read, and this how energy works. And each time that used to get underlined, that energy is very powerful tool, provided we know how to use it properly. So during this pandemic also, when there is so much of fear around us, there's so much now, especially we are in lockdown, and there are too many deaths reported from the last few days. Too many cases, the hospitals are full. People are not getting beds and oxygen cylinders. They're dying. And in spite of listening to such news, such disturbing news, even though I'm not listening too much, but in spite of knowing what's happening around you, we are in a position to offer because we have experimented for a very long time radiating the energies, the right energy required at the right time. So since the pandemic started, we didn't talk much, especially in the center where I stay, we didn't talk much about the virus or how it affects or the symptoms of it. There were hundreds of talks going on YouTube about the symptoms of the virus, and people were so confused as to what exactly is the symptom and what exactly needs to be done. There was a lot of confusion in the mindsets. So we kept it very simple and clear. We said, okay, there is a virus where it's troubling people, and now we will not think or talk too much about it. Somehow it came very naturally. Nobody told us to do that way, but we chose not to speak about it at all. And we were rather, in a position to give the happiness to the students also who were calling us that they lost their loved ones, they were crying in sorrow. We could really, offer them that peace for a short while, even while they were talking to us, and they felt nice. The feedback which we were getting during our telephone conversation with people, that we feel very nice after talking to you. We felt very light. The heart was like, feeling light after that. So I was wondering that how we were able to be a provider in such a time. So a long time practice, when I reflect, this is the key, that a long term practice of training your mind to be a giver, to be a provider of peace, of love, of happiness, of bliss, of joy in the world. If you do it every day, morning, evening, then you can always do it in such disturbing times also, rather than getting caught up with the information you still can give. So I've seen that not for a single moment I had this fear experienced by the virus, and I know if it happens, it has to happen, it will happen, but slightest fear didn't touch the mind because it was constantly busy in giving, in providing. So that's what we keep ourselves engaged with. There's so much Baba has given us to sit back and reflect. So I've spent my time reading some good books which I kept aside that I will read it someday. So that's helping me, and plus recalling my sweet memories with Baba and the Dadis. That keeps you alive, and we are truly living, I feel. Whoever talks to us can listen to our laughing tone, or we are in a happy space, they can feel it, and they also get uplifted no matter in what mood they're calling us. So that's how I take it.
And whenever I come to Banjara Center, it's really beautiful. It's always uplifting. The energy is totally different the minute you walk into the center. Yeah, thank you. So would you like to guide us into the meditation for a couple of minutes?
Sure. I have 5 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
As I sit comfortably, my body is still. I withdraw my attention from the world around me. And I focus my thoughts in the center of my forehead. This is my sacred space, where I can go as and when required. And in this sacred space, I see my real self, my elevated self, my pure self. I meet myself, which is full of all the powers. And I, the soul, I travel upwards, leaving behind the known world of mind. I now visualize myself in front of Baba, the supreme being of light, In his presence, I feel comforted. I feel light. And my heart knows that I belong to him and he belongs to me for eternity. Baba is my loving father. Baba is my sweet mother, my friend, my beloved, my guru, my guide, my mentor, my everything. And his sweet company makes me sweeter. I feel that all the powers from him are inherited by me. Like a father giving his inheritance, and I, the soul, am receiving the inheritance of all the powers from Shiv Baba. I feel master powerful. I'm no more a weak soul. I'm transformed in his presence. I feel so comfortable. In my home, in the presence of my father. There's nothing to worry or fear. Receiving the powers from him, I carry this treasure along with me. Bringing back with me into the present moment. I, the soul, once again seated in the seat, which is center of my forehead. I'm full. I don't expect anything from anyone. I'm rather a giver, a provider. And the treasures which I receive from my spiritual father, Shiv Baba, I now radiate into the world around me. I radiate peace, love, happiness, purity, bliss, and joy into this world. And I give unconditionally. All the souls in the world, my brothers and sisters, this is the gift from me to my family. Om Shanti.